So we're reading this book right now, and it's got 3 types of processes about like babies, and the first one is ectogenesis, which is growing something outside of the body rather than inside. So in this case, they're growing embryos in bottles rather than in a mother's womb. It's like an artificial womb, and they're born in this thing called the Central London Hatchery and Conditioning Center, because it's placed in London, England. And there's even like a single egg that can produce 96 identical people. So are these types of procedures happening today? This book was written in 1931.
Yeah, I think there's cloning taking place today where you can clone people and animals.
Okay, about when do you think they started?
I think cloning's been around for, I'd say 10 or more years, or at least.
And what pros or cons do you see with these types of procedures?
Oh, well, the pros would be that you would get an identical source of what you had before. So if you had back in the day, if you had a donkey that was your mule, that was the best mule that you could have, you would be able to duplicate that through cloning and have the same exact thing. On the negative side, if you wanted to produce evil or bad or replicate a bunch, you could do that as well.
Like a Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
or, you know.
Okay, the second one is genetic engineering, which is the bettering of genes by modification. This is shown in the book by like a caste system. So they have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and I think epsilons, but we haven't read that yet. The alphas wear gray, and the betas, I don't know what color they wear, but they don't work as hard as the alphas. The gammas wear green, and the deltas, since they're at the lowest, wear khakis. Basically, everybody but the alphas are stupid, but there's no creativity or individuality other than this caste system. Are these types of procedures happening today?
I think you have class systems today. You have mid-class, upper class, wealthy, poor. So you do have a class system. So I guess they would be taking place. I would say yes today. And they have connotations like dumb, smart, stupid to them too. So
When did it start?
I think classification systems have been around forever. I mean, hundreds of years ago. I think even back when, there was always been wealthy people, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's always been poor people. So in this example, I think that classification has always existed.
Okay. What pros or cons do you see with these types of procedures? So like with genetic engineering, they're bettering the genes by modification. So when they're after they're born, they use brain aggregation, which we'll get to in a second.
Pros and cons?
Yeah, pros and cons. There's no individuality.
Right, and there's no diversity. If you just create the same thing over and over again, you have no diversity. If you have no diversity, then you see no other lines of pathways to answers or problems. You just get one view.
And the last one is brain aggregation. So for this one, it's the human brain is formed, and when the fetal brain is being developed, cells are organized in a certain layer. Like they can organize the cells in this baby's brain. So the way they do this is the soma drug, which is like a wonder drug, which excludes all of their negative thoughts, but their happiness comes from obstacle golf or sex. So it's kind of like the higher your body count, the happier you will be. And they use this brain aggregation machine while they're sleeping. So they tell the alphas that you are the best, and they tell the betas, you're great, but you're not the best, but that's okay. And so they teach these things through the sleeping. Do you think these types of procedures are happening today?
In a way, not that extreme, but I think there still is brainwashing that takes place, so to speak. So I think you have all kinds of cults that brainwash people into believing certain things. I think even TV does it to people. I think when you watch TV, especially from a political standpoint, depending on what they want to hear is what they promote to you. So fake news, as Trump likes to say. So,
when do you think it started?
I think there's always been people that, I mean, cults have been around for years. So I think it's always been there. How predominantly has it come to surface? I don't know. 50 years ago, maybe? I think you've been around for 50 to 100 years.
What pros or cons do you see with these types of procedures?
I don't know that there's too many pros. I would say this brain aggregation is a con because it most of the time leads to non-thinking for yourself. It's somebody imposing their views on you, and you become what they impose you to be. So you're not yourself individual because of these things. So that's probably the con. The pro is that, you know, when you brainwash somebody, you get them to do exactly what you want them to do. So, you know, if you're needing tasks done and you brainwash into somebody doing that task, then that task is going to get done.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that that's a pro from my opinion, but that would be a pro from somebody doing this activity.
In this book, they make the word parent seem like a cuss word. It's like, oh, you said parent, because it was so long ago that, what's the word? The book says women were viviparous, and that's not a thing anymore. They're produced in these factories, and they do each 3 of these things.